I heard this content, because I heard this type of content, for the very first time when I was 18 years old. But I knew, just like you feel like I'm like, man, that's unbelievable stuff. Man, that was awesome. And I knew that I had to have it around me. Does that make sense? I had to be interacting with it. I had to get it into my life on a daily basis, in and out, every single day. And so I did something different than most people do. Now, it's framed up under a story that I'm going to tell you a little bit later about mentors. What is a mentor? How do you find one? How do you get one? How do you maintain a relationship with one? But what I did without knowing it is I put myself in relationship with the knowledge on a day in and day out basis. Does that make sense? It's kind of like somebody teased about GTC. Wonderful event. All those greats are wonderful events. I love those things. They're very, very important. Great how-tos, great motivation. You come home. Who was the husband? Who was the husband saying they come home with their, where is it? Oh, yeah. They come home and like, ah, you know. And that's true. At least it is for a few weeks. And then what begins to happen? It begins to trail off, or we begin to drift. I've drifted. That's why I love that book so much. We begin to drift from it. So the key is, how do you not drift from what you're learning right now? In my opinion, the only thing I can teach from is what I experienced in my life, is what happened for me is I was interacting with it on a day in and day out basis. And back then it was me showing up every morning to have breakfast at 7 to 7:30. Then I would cut grass. I would landscape. I would clean pools. And then I would interact with my mentor and his wife, on a daily basis as I was learning and doing these chores and learning. They would challenge me. They would test me. They would, all these different things. But what happened was I never got away from it. I never allowed myself to get away from it. Does that make sense? The same thing is true with fitness. You can go and get all excited about a gym. What's the biggest selling month of all? It's January, which is great. Now, do the gyms all of a sudden start sucking in February? No. Nothing changes. Who changes? The person that purchased the membership. It's not like the gym changes. It's not like they empty the gym and they take all the equipment away in February, or the customer service drastically drops in February and March to upset people, or the equipment gets broke or they stop using it. No. The people get away from what it is they were wanting to participate in. So how do you avoid that? The same way that you avoid the stories from coming back in. You can't get casual. You've got to generate continual, consistent activity in your life, whether it be in business, in your marriage, with your kids. You can apply this across the board anywhere, in your faith, in your health. You can apply it to anything, and it works everywhere. You've got to have continual, consistent behavior with it if you expect to establish a relationship with it. Does that make sense? Terry and I have known each other for a couple years now through what we train and through Mentorfish. But if every time Terry called me up or asked me a question or commented and I was nowhere to be found, do you think Terry would be sitting here today? No. But we begin to cultivate a relationship. So we began to interact and get to know each other, get to interact with his business, learn about what he does. He interacted with me about my business and what this was creating, all the different things that we're learning. So we established a relationship with it. So then the relationship gets closer and closer and closer. At any point here where I could say, you know what, we're not going to talk about it, the relationship's going to go like this. Well, the same is true for these principles in your life. The same is true for leadership and professional development, personal growth, whatever you want to call it. It's going to work for you as often and as actively as you'll implement it. We talk about discipline later, and that's the key. It's going to interact with you at whatever level you allow it. It's going to work. It's not going to change. The equipment at the gym works. It's not like if you go and use it, it's not going to work for you, and it's not going to do for you what it may do for somebody else. The same thing with Arbonne, or network marketing, or business, or entrepreneurship, or finances. It works. Those principles, the things that are founded on, those aren't the variable. Does that make sense? What's the variable? Everybody say, I'm the variable. I am as well. I'm the variable in my life. Any moment that this variable gets casual, I'll pay a price that I don't need to pay. Does that make sense? And so what I began to look at is I began to say, what made the difference for me? How did I not get away from this? And I began to identify certain key things that I experienced continually and consistently in my life. And then that was the vision I set out on creating for people all over the world. With Mentorship Mastery, officially, when we first began, and all these different things, versus keynoting, just showing up on a stage and, it's good. But if you do something with it, great. If you don't, that's your problem. On to the next stage. I knew I could do something more. I knew with my mind and my gifts, I could create something that was more valuable. And when I was sitting in Australia 8 years ago, something hit my mind as I was thinking, why am I not as fulfilled as I thought I was going to be? What's missing? And I had this question, said, Keith, what is it that you have? How have you gotten where you're at so quickly in your life? Bingo, mentorship. It was like, it was easy. I knew it, but I never connected those dots. The reason my life was accelerating at such a pace is because of my mentoring relationships that I had. Then all of a sudden, I kind of felt like, that's it. I've never heard an audible voice from God either, but I just felt like right then that was it. That was my call. And I just had this urge to say that, you know what, Keith, your greatness is to bring back the art of mentorship to the current marketplace, made available to the masses. So I thought, well, what is that? And that's what I began to process. But what that was for me was daily interaction, a protocol and a relationship of commitment, of discipline, and accountability. Let me ask you this. Does the average person like being held accountable, yes or no? No, they don't. Have you ever considered that might be why they're average? We kind of think about it, but then that's all we do. And we just kind of go back to being average. If you want something different, you've got to do something different. And so basically what I decided to do in Mentorfish was begin to simulate everything that I had experienced in one level or one capacity or another in my mentoring relationships. Does that make sense? Because that's what kept me close to these principles. My mentors, my mentorships, you're finding out very quickly, as you probably already began to hear by now, Mentorship Mastery and Mentorfish.com are not just clever names for a leadership company. It's an absolute way of life. It's a way of life that changed how my life was being ran at the time. Does that make sense? You say, Keith, well, I don't know if I'm ready for that. Well, then, that's not a problem. It's not a right or wrong. But just be willing to accept then what you have right now, because what you're doing is going to get you what you've got. Does that make sense? Now, that's not a wrong or a right. I'm not condemning or condoning. I'm just saying, you either got to say, hey, you know what? I'm okay with this, or you got to do something different. I mean, I know some people that say, I'm not okay with this and still never do anything different, because they want to be upset all the time, but they don't want to do anything different. I was laughing when you were sharing about, people on the table. You were talking about dentistry, That's how I feel with some people sometimes. I'm like, I just want to shake people sometimes. I'm like, hey, you're saying you want something different. I'm showing you what will work, but not because it's me, because it's principles of truth that are biblically accurate and sound will always work, and yet people still don't do them. Then you want to grab people and shake them. You ever want to passionately shake somebody? But I remember in my life, because I have babies, don't shake, take a break. So, you got to remember that in your life. Don't shake, take a break. You guys got to remember that in your professions, Yeah, some of them you can't shake. But the point is this. You're either going to get to choose or choose in or choose out. That's simple. And I want to hear my heart when I say this. I don't mean necessarily choose into Mentorfish or choose out of Mentorfish. This is a tool that I've created. But what I am saying is you have to choose in on something of this kind to generate what I'm talking about with you or not. And the people who choose or not a wrong or a right, no judgment, but get settled with where you're at, because that's where you'll always be. Not a wrong or a right. That's a principle that will be around for hundreds of years to come, and it's been around for thousands of years in the past. That's just what it is. If you choose in something different, mentorship, something that will grow you, move you, that you can interact with continually and consistently, you will begin to move forward. You'll begin to see results, just like you would if you went to the gym and everything else. Now, of course, I've created something that I think is very valuable, because I've created it from the insights and the experiences that I've had. I'm going to explain to you how it's designed to work, and you can choose at whatever level you like to interact with it, because the way to stay close to this stuff is to not get yourself distant from it, which means I had to figure out a way. We're not all going to see each other tomorrow. This two-day event, you might be here. He might be here still tomorrow. Maybe I'll be here in the office sometime tomorrow. You might see me come in or out. But our lives don't exist in this event. Does that make sense? That's one of the biggest things this industry, my industry, has missed over the years. They try to create all these experiences within a seminar, event-type ballroom setting, and then when you go home, they have nothing for you other than maybe a book or a CD. But you don't live here. Where do you live? You live in your daily lives. So I thought, how can we, because that's what I had these mentors that were in my daily lives. They got involved in my world, both me and theirs and mine. So I thought, what can we create that will actually be, this will be part of it, but this two-day event will probably be actually the least amount, the least part of the relationship, because I want to go with you into who you are and where you live and how you operate and where you work and your marriages, your kids, and all that kind of stuff. Does that make sense? So that's what we've created. So what Mentorfish is, it's a mentoring platform that will provide you content, support, accountability, synergy, discipline, commitment, all together in a community-type atmosphere around a group of people that are all moving together in the same direction. Could you imagine, after we just experienced this event together, how effective us 50 people would be if we all made it a pact to work together for the next 36 months? It's kind of like what Clarissa was asking earlier. Like, hey, I want to, that's what this is. That kind of thing. I can't do it by myself. Maybe you can, but I couldn't. I don't honestly believe any of us can, because it says when two or more come together, that's when the power will take place. That's not just for our prayer request list, by the way. It's when we interact with each other and hold each other accountable. Is this making sense, yes or no? So what we provide in Mentorfish is this. I always tell people, daily interaction. You've got to have a daily interaction. You have to have a daily interaction with this content. So we've developed a 15-minute daily training Monday through Friday. So Monday through Friday, I teach and train and mentor for 15 minutes. Most of the time it's me. Sometimes I'm featuring an interview or a special guest, or I'm talking about a particular book or what I've learned from it, and with a nugget of information on top of that every day, Monday through Friday. Because I can't say, hey, least I used to, but now I say I can't because out of my own desire to serve people. I can't say, hey, you need to invest 15 minutes a day to yourself, but not provide you a tool to do it with. You know, I could say, well, I've told you and you understand the value, but if you do or you don't, that's up to you. You know you should, but if you don't, it's not my problem. And I said, well, if I'm going to tell people that, then I got to create something that will give them that. If I'm going to talk to them about mentorship, how to stay close to it, then I need to provide them something that will allow them to do that at a level of access that anybody can get access to. And that's what we began to create. So I teach a daily moment, Monday through Friday. Again, I would like you to listen to mine, but I'm not saying that if you don't listen to mine, nothing's going to work in your life. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is, if you don't do something on a daily basis, nothing will work in your life at the level you say you'd like it to. You'll exist right where you're at. Not a right or a wrong, but that's just where we end up being. Because we're either growing or we're decaying every moment in every area of our lives. There's either growth or decay. We like to convince ourselves there's a neutral, but there's not. Cars have neutral, we do not. We're moving forward, we're moving backward every moment of every day in every area of our lives. For some of you, that in and of itself is an awareness. So that's what we did. 15 minutes a day, Monday through Friday. So you have something to do. Now, some people say, well, I don't know where to fit that in. Well, it's very easy to fit in. You can TiVo a 1-hour show. You know, if you watch a TiVo 1-hour show, you don't watch the commercials, you get 15 minutes of your day back. Because in every 1-hour show, there's 15 minutes of commercials. Actually, I think it's 16 minutes of commercials. So you have an extra minute to spare. Watch the show, train yourself, and you still got 1 minute to do something else with. Does that make sense? Or you can take it with you on your smartphone. You can take it with your iPad. You don't have to sit in front of your computer every day. You can take it anywhere you want. We'll walk with you, we'll run with you, we'll drink coffee with you. I've got people that jog and work out with me all over the world every morning for 15 minutes a day. So it goes into where you're at, however you'd like to do it. Does that make sense? Mentorfish is an absolute form of mentorship. I want you in it. I want to be mentored. I want to be mentoring you. I want to serve you for at least the next 36 months if you'll allow me that opportunity. And I also want to show you and teach you how to find mentors in your life as well, because this is a form of mentorship. But you may also want something similar to what I experienced with another person individually. Does that make sense? And I want to give you the tools to do that. Because if you ever meet someone who tells you that they have everything you need, run like the wind. And so what I'm saying is we have a lot of great tools that will serve you. But even when we serve you, you may want to go develop a personal relationship with somebody just like I had the opportunity to. So what we're going to do in the next few moments is this. What is mentorship? What is a mentor? We're going to answer 4 questions. What is a mentor? How do you find a mentor? How do you get into a relationship with a mentor? And how do you maintenance that relationship once you are in a relationship with a mentor? Does that make sense? So this is the first half of the training of the art of mentorship. What is a mentor? How do you find a mentor? How do you get into a relationship with a mentor? And how do you maintain that relationship once you are in that relationship with a mentor? Okay? So by the time we're done here, you're going to have some very strong tools for you to take home with you right now today and begin to implement if you chose to. Of course, Mentorfish is the first step, but you can start to take this into your own lives as well and find mentors in your life, just like I did. Okay, let's start with this. Number 1, what is a mentor? A mentor is someone who has something you would like to have or is at some place you would like to be. A mentor is someone who's at some place you would like to be or has something you would like to have. That's what a mentor is. A mentor is somebody who has something you would like to have or is at some place you would like to be. Now, I want to clarify this for a moment because I did not say a mentor is somebody that has everything you'd like to have or is at all places you would like to be. Because that's often where we go. Who can I find that's the perfect everything? Well, I'm not saying you won't have a mentor that can help you in many more areas than just one, but I also want you to know this. It's something you might want to have or something you may want to be. One mentor may not have everything you want. Does that make sense? They may have the finances that you want to learn from them, but they may not have the marriage. They may have the marriage, but they may not have the finances. They may have the faith, but they may not have the health. They may have the health, but they may not have the finances, whatever combination you want to put together. Or they may have 2 but not 3. But they have something you would like to have. Don't eliminate somebody from a realm of mentorship just because they don't have everything. I mean, you want some common denominators, of what you would like to have as a package. Obviously, there's certain things that I have that if they don't meet those minimum requirements in all areas, then I'm not going to mentor them. I'm not going to get mentorship from them on anything. But what I'm saying is, I have mentors for certain things in my life, and I have other mentors for other things in my life. So mentors have something you want to have, or that's some place you'd like to be. They're not a perfect being, so don't expect them to have everything you've ever wanted and to be perfect all the time because you're going to set yourself up for disappointment. But they have something you have, they have something you want to have, or they're at some place you'd like to be. That's what a mentor is, okay? It's important to understand because the art of mentorship, the true art of mentorship, in my opinion, is a two-way, results-producing street. The mentor helps the protege produce results, so they got to have something you want, or got to be at somewhere you're at, or want to be, so they can teach you how to get there. And then you have a protege, and the protege helps the mentor produce results by serving them and creating value. We're going to come back to that in just a moment. So you got to understand the art of mentorship is a two-way, results-producing street. That's why you want to find somebody that has something you want to have, or that's someplace you like to be. All right? Number two, how do you find a mentor? Some people say, Keith, that makes sense. But now, how do I go about finding a mentor? I get it's very valuable. I've heard your stories. I got it. But how do you go about finding mentors in your life? Now, we're going to write this down. This is very, very important. Very important. You're going to get ready when I write this down. Here we go. How do you find a mentor? Here it comes. Get ready to write, because it's coming right now. Very important. How do you find a mentor? You look around. You look around. I know, it's shocking, isn't it? I told you, if this was rocket science, I wouldn't be able to train it myself. You look around. Now, I'm being funny on purpose, but I'm also making a very big point. You look around. What happens often is we say, okay, Keith, I love this mentorship stuff, so let's talk about this for a second. I love real estate too. I love real estate. I have a pretty vested background in real estate. So let's say we're all real estate people. We all want to be top game in real estate. So we think, okay, I got it, Keith, mentorship. Who's the biggest name we can think about in real estate that we want to be a mentor of ours maybe? What's the first thing that comes to your mind maybe? Donald Trump pops up. Other names pop up as well, but that's a popular one. Donald Trump's name pops up. Donald Trump. That's what I mean. What we do is we say we want to have a mentor, and then we go, well, I'd like to have Donald Trump as my mentor. Okay, well, I'm not saying it's not possible, but that's probably not where you're going to start. Does that make sense? So what happens is we go, well, I want Donald Trump. Well, that's not possible. Okay, I have no mentor. And we give up. And what I'm suggesting is look around for something that's closer to you to begin with today. Because quite honestly, if Donald Trump walked in this room today and you're starting in real estate, you wouldn't know what to do with his advice anyways. Because it'd be so far beyond where you're at today, it wouldn't make any sense, and you wouldn't be able to maintenance that relationship properly. And you'd be so new to mentoring, you wouldn't even be able to be a great protege to make sure you maintenance the relationship and be able to keep it. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like mentoring is kind of like a career. You're going to have a career in business. You have a career as a father. You have a career as a mother, something like that. You're going to have a career in mentoring as being a mentor and a protege most likely. And as you continue and to progress in that career, you're going to become more and more effective as a protege, which means you'll be able to reach further and further and further. But what I'm suggesting is not that Donald Trump can't become your mentor. I had the 25th richest person in the country as my mentor at one time. So I'm not saying it's out of your reach, because it's not, but that's not where I started. So when I say look around, let's go back to real estate for example. Let's say, Keith, I'm starting in real estate, but my goal is I want to build 2 homes a year. That's my goal. Okay, wonderful. That's a wonderful goal. So look around. Who could be a mentor of yours? If your goal is to build 2 homes a year, who could be a mentor of yours? Think about it. If you want to build 2 homes a year, who could be a mentor of yours? Anyone who is building at least 2 or more homes a year. See, you look around. You want to look around for somebody that's a few steps beyond where you're at. Does that make sense? You don't have to look a mile ahead yet. You don't have to look, thousands of steps ahead, but look around for somebody that's at least a few steps ahead of you in the particular area that you're wanting to grow. So if you wanted to build 2 homes a month, 2 homes a year, anybody who's building 2 or more homes a year could be your starting out mentor. Does that make sense? Because then at least you're going to get in the game. Some people say Donald Trump doesn't happen, they give up and they give out and they give in. But they say, wait a second, I can find somebody. Look around in your community. That's another whole pool of people. You could look in your community, you could look in your church, you could look in your chamber, you could look in your community, anywhere you want to go. Go to a subdivision. Find somebody, and you can do it. And we're talking about how to get access in a minute. But look for somebody that's a few steps ahead of you. Now, for example, let's say you find that mentor, 2 more homes a year. You start building 2 homes a year. Now your goal is to build 5. Who can no longer be your mentor anymore? The person who's only building 2. Make sense? So if you're building 5, you want to build 5, who do you need to find as a mentor? Somebody who's building at least 5 or more homes a year. Then they could be your mentor. But what's happening is you're progressing. You're progressing. And so the higher level the relationships get, the more value you're creating from them. So what I'm saying, when I say look around, I'm kind of being funny, but I'm also being very serious. A lot of times we look too far too fast, we don't find anything, and then we stop, and we don't have a mentor anymore. Or we give up. And what I'm suggesting, if you haven't heard me say it already, what I'm suggesting is you do not want to go another day in your life without a mentor. You know what it is. You see the value in it. It's an accelerator. I'm not suggesting you couldn't do it by yourself, but why would you take 30 years to do something that can be done in 3 years if you surround yourself by the right people, the right content? I'm going to suggest, like I did yesterday, if you don't have a mentor in your life, I'm suggesting that you're lying to yourself and everyone else about how serious you are about getting where you want to go. Don't go. We think it's a credit card slogan. Don't leave home without it. No, that's how I think about mentorship. Don't leave home without one. Don't do anything without one. Why would you? Why would you want to learn by that many mistakes when you could talk to somebody else and learn from their mistakes? What do they say? A smart person learns from their mistakes. Well, a genius learns from somebody else's mistakes. That's what mentorship is. So you look around for somebody that's at least a few steps ahead of you, and that will get you going in the realm of mentoring. Then you can continue to progress, and someday, if you continue down that path in real estate, Donald Trump could be a very valuable mentor to you, and you would know what to do and how to maintain the relationship when you got there. Does this make sense? Any questions so far? What is a mentor, or how do you find a mentor? Any questions on that so far? Okay, so a mentor is somebody that has something you want to have, or that's someplace you'd like to be. How do you find one? You look around. Okay, so once you look around and you find one, then you're going to say, how do I get access? How do I get access to that mentor? Does that make sense? That's number 3. How do you get into relationship? How do you get into relationship with a mentor? And I'm going to teach you that and something else all at the same time here really quick, because this is very powerful stuff. Can you all still take some more? Yes or no? I'm going to teach you 2 things at once. Can you handle that? Are you sure? No. Some people are like, I don't know about that. It's getting pretty high octane still. It's getting late in the day. It's Friday. Now, we're going to time out for just a second. I want to show you something that's very powerful. I'm going to blow through it, but you're going to get it at some level either way, and you're going to create value from it, and I'm going to go right back to mentorship. So we're taking a time out for a second. We're on question number 3. How do you find a mentor? I mean, how do you get access to a mentor? But time out on that for a second. Hang with me for just a second. Let's say this is you, okay? Let me ask you a question. Did you know something? Did you know that you can't possibly grant access to everyone in your life to you? Did you know that? You can't possibly grant everyone the same level of access to you in your life. Did you know that? Think about it. We nod our head yes, but then we give ourselves to everyone all the time. And we try to be everything to everybody all the time. So we understand contextually what I'm saying, but yet at the same time, we get 100 new people in our business, we put 100 new people right next to us. We try to be everything to everybody. But we can't possibly grant everyone the same level of access to us in our life. Think about this. If I granted everyone the same level of access to me, what would be the value of being my friend? There would be none. If I granted everybody the same level of access to me as my spouse, what would be the value of being my spouse? There would be none. So you can't possibly grant everyone the same level of access, especially in business, because it's not going to be very effective. So I'm just going to share with you very briefly what I do, and you can take it for what it's worth. Is that fair enough? And then I'll show you how I use it, and then you can interpret it and take it into your world and begin to use at least the philosophy of it, and I think you'll be a more effective manager or business owner in your life. So here's what I suggest. I have at least 3 levels of access in my life, okay? I'm going to suggest you want at least 3. Somebody the other day said, Keith, that's kind of look like shields. Well, that's kind of what they're meant for. They'll protect you, okay? So in this level of access right here, I have 3 to 5 people in my inner circle, okay? My second level, I have 5 to 10, but no more than 10, okay? And on my third level, I have 10 to 15, but no more than 15. So my inner level, I have 3 to 5, but no more than 5. My second level, I have 5 to 10, but no more than 10. On my third level, I have 10 to 15, but no more than 15. Then actually out here, for example, I have my general public. Now that's not the general public, that's my general public. Does that make sense? Somebody that knows of me, heard of me, part of our events, seen me, Googled me, whatever. It's not the general public, it's my general public. And you have the same type of thing in your life, okay? So here's how I manage these. Now I'm going to show you not only how I have them, I'm also going to show you how I work with these relationships. This is just for me. I'm not suggesting you have to do this exact same thing, but I am suggesting you may want to take part of this philosophy and apply it into your business or life as well, because it'll make you a more effective business owner and manager, and you'll create way more value using something like this than trying to be everything to everybody all the time, okay? So right here, watch. This level right here, these 3 to 5 people right here, I give one-on-one, face-to-face time with. These people right here, they get one-on-one, face-to-face time with me, Okay? This group right here, they get one-on-one phone time with me, but group FaceTime. This group right here, they get group phone time with me. See how it transitions? The inner circle, they get one-on-one face-to-face time with me. This group right here, they get one-on-one phone time, but group FaceTime. This group right here, they get group phone time. What's really awesome is out here, this group, they now, over the last 24 months almost, they get Mentorfish. They get a simulated mentoring environment built on a social media platform that simulates them being right here. And that's how we manage. That's how we manage thousands of people all over the world at a very intimate, connected level. But in my professional relationships, this is where I'm at right here with people that I work with at an intimate level on a life-type basis. So you can apply the same thing in your life. Now, any questions on this before I go any further? 10 and 15 is group phone time. One-on-one face-to-face time. One-on-one phone time, group FaceTime. Group phone time, Mentorfish. This is actually almost better than this now. Because this is group video time, face-to-face interaction, chatting, all this kind of stuff. So that's how I manage. Now, this is my professional relationship. People always say, well, where's your family at, Keith? Well, my son's here, my wife's out here. No, I'm just joking. No, your family's right on the dot with you. Your immediate family, spouse and children. Now, I do have one of these for my extended family, and I have one of these for my personal relationships as well. Does that make sense? So I use this philosophy in many different areas of my life. But my wife and my kids, they're on the dot with me. Make sense? I use this for business, extended family, and personal relationships. But I have one of these for each. Great question. Very good. You're catching on to it. Okay. Now, this is you, right? So how are you going to determine who gets where? Make sense? Because let's say in life or in business, you get 100 new people into your life or into your relationship or into your business. How do you determine who's going to get into here? What do you think? You qualify them. Absolutely. You qualify them. What we do is we get 100 people in, and we try to put all 100 people right here. But all 100 people aren't qualified to be there. So you got to qualify these people to figure out where they're going to be. I'm always qualifying. Talk to people that know me very well. I'm always qualifying people to figure out where they're going to be in relationship with me or where I'm going to be in relationship with them. I'm always qualifying people. How do people qualify? That's up to you. By the value they create. And you can define value in many different terms. It could be if somebody follows instructions, that may get them to there. It could be based on performance. It would get them to there. It could be based on passion to serve. It could be there. It could be on creativity. You can use whatever level, you can use whatever qualifying values you want. I'm just going to suggest have something in place. You know, you want to have bigger ones out here, and they get closer and closer and closer. The quality they create got to be higher and higher and higher. Does that make sense? People have to serve to get in here. I just don't put people in here. You may think you want to be in here, but it doesn't mean you're going to be. People have got to qualify to be in here. Same thing in your life. You've got to protect the levels of access. You'll create more. This is the old 20-80 rule. Does that make sense? You'll create more with these 20 than you will with these 80 if you manage these 20 properly. Now, that goes up to 30 on the high side, but you get the point. You'll produce more with these people than you will with all 100 people trying to be in here. When you understand that, your business will begin to take off and you manage people differently. And it'll become more effectively for you as well. It's not that these people are out. They're not. You just have something different for them. Like, you know, I've got thousands of people out here that we manage very effectively. They just don't all get one-on-one face-to-face time with me here live in my office. Does that make sense? So that's how you use it. But you got to qualify people. Now I'm going to show you. So now any other questions about access levels? Okay. Let's flip-flop back to the mentoring conversation for a minute, okay? So untime out, as my almost 8-year-old would say. Untime out, Dad. Now, pay attention, though, very quickly. This is no longer you, okay? This is a potential mentor you'd like to be in relationship with, okay? Where do you think you probably are right now in the chart? Out here or further, maybe even sometimes, right? So now you can see why I was teaching it. So here's the mentor you'd like to get access to. Number 3 is, how do you get access to the mentors once you identify who they are? Well, now what's the answer? How are you going to get yourself from out here into in here? You qualify yourself to be in here by creating value, by serving. That's how you get here. You may think you want to be here, That doesn't really make a difference. Are you qualified to get here? Because I can tell you this, so especially as you begin to grow in your mentoring career, your mentors will have something like this already in place, especially when you get to the higher echelons of mentorship. They're going to have something like this to protect themselves, so you're going to have to do something different than everybody else to get access to them. Now you may say, Keith, well, how am I going to get in front of the line? When there's 1,000 people, they probably have a line a mile long of people wanting to get access to them. Well, here's your difference. You ready for this? Here's the difference. That line that's a mile long, they're all in line for what that mentor can do for them. You get in line for what you can do for that mentor, and you'll find yourself right at the front of it. You got to create value. You got to serve. When I first began my mentoring career as a protege, I cut grass and I cleaned pools. I cleaned cars. You name it, I've done it. I always tell people that work with me, I'm never going to ask you to do anything that I haven't done myself. That's the good news. The bad news is I've done pretty much all of it. I've paid for it. I've traveled. I've given cars. I've picked up poop. I've picked up dry cleaning. I've cleaned houses. I've done everything. You name it. I've done it all. Because I pursue wisdom like most people pursue money. I've done everything that's legal and moral to gain knowledge in my life. But I had to create value. I had to create service. I had to do something to qualify myself to be in there. You know, one of my current mentors right now, I had to actually create revenue for him to get in here. When I finally generated a certain amount of revenue, it got me into this level of access with him. But I had to serve, and that got me here, 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 and here, and here, and I could learn from him at that level. So the question is going to be up to you. What are you going to do to create value to get access to your mentors? And here's a little hint. It's your responsibility to figure out what it is you need to do to qualify. I'm not saying a mentor would never give you any help trying to figure it out, but you may go to a mentor and say, well, what can I do to get qualified to be in your presence or you have access to you? I'm not saying they won't help you, but it's really your responsibility, because if they got to tell you, why wouldn't they tell the other 1,000 people that are in line? Does that make sense? So it's up to you. When you can come up with it and you can get creative, you're going to find yourself even to the front of that even more often than not. And that's when I learned this, I began to see this. This is how I began to get access to people in my life that I never dreamed I would have access to. And I started serving, coming up with little funny, cool things to do, whether it be sending them gifts, sending them books, sending them flowers, getting their cars washed for them, all different kinds of tools that I use, creating value, creating revenue. You name it, I've done it to get here. Anything that's legal or moral, I've done to get here. And it can be something fun. You know, Carla, she gets me a Theta burger from Billy's on the Square every time we have a 2-day event. That gets her access. Does that make sense? She's creating value. Sounds funny, but she does. She also serves another huge part for me. She edits all my articles. She's our editor. Every time I write an article, it goes to her first. She's the one who makes me and Michelle look wonderfully smart. We send her our rough drafts. She polishes it all up for us. She has a huge gift and talent in writing. She does that every week for over a year now. Hasn't it been? A year and a half since we began doing articles, a year or two, minimum. So she creates that level of value for me. So what do you think I give her? Access. It's a two-way results-producing relationship. Does that make sense? I've had other people, I've joked, some people have heard me tease about over the years, you know, I love Outback, and I love chocolate chip cookies, but I've stopped saying that because people send me chocolate chip cookies. Because they want to be nice. They send me chocolate chip cookies to be of value and service. What do you think that gets? It gets a phone call. You know, I remember one time in an event like this, it was actually here a couple years ago, somehow the topic of vacuum cleaners came up, and I said, I love Org vacuums. Any of you have an Org vacuum? Org vacuums are awesome. They are awesome. They're the best of the best. They definitely suck in a good way. And so I just said, I love Org vacuums. That's all I really said. 6 months later, I come back from our lake retreat. I pull around the back of our home, and on the back porch of my house, there's a box. And I can see when I'm pulling in, it's an Org box. Has an Org. I get out. On this box, it says, here's your backup. Because I talked about something else while I was there, too. I said, I want a backup for everything in my life. I'll teach you the very same thing here. You want a backup for every single thing in your life. You always want a backup for every single thing in your life. Always have a backup, except for your faith in your marriage. So they heard me teach those things. So I got back. They heard me say something about Org vacuums, how much I love them. And this box on the back of my porch was written, here's your backup. And inside the box had an Org vacuum. And it had backup parts for that Org vacuum. It had backup parts for the Org vacuum I already had. So you know what that got me? An Org vacuum. Serving. Somebody created service. So you know what that got them? I had a phone call and said, you know what, you didn't have to do that. I really appreciate that. I love the value that you just created in my life. I said, you know what, how can I be of service to you? I ended up doing a couple of phone calls for them because I didn't know that somebody was in my audience, her and her family owned 5 Org vacuum stores in Southern California. So what do you think I did? I served them and worked with them and established a great relationship. And I consulted them and did a bunch of different things with them in their business that well outweighed what it was, all because I wanted to serve them back because they were so sweet to think of that and send me that deal. They created value. They created access, so they got into here. So it's up to you to get creative. I've done coffee, donuts, food, pizzas, you name it, to get access to people that I want to meet or talk to or learn from. That's up to you. How do you get access to a mentor? You create value. You have to qualify yourself to be there. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? You got to qualify to be there. Get creative. Get creative. You know, I had somebody the other day, I think they were kind of mocking me. They, well, Keith, I love that access, but you know, I was somewhere else in a different city, but I can't come mow your lawn. I'm like, well, actually, in your limited mind, yes, you could if you really wanted to. I didn't say you had to mow it. I just said it could be mowed. There's lawn services all over Tulsa. You could easily call one of them up, and I'm sure they'd happily take payment from another place or another city to go cut a lawn. You say, Keith, that's pretty wild. You say that? Yeah, absolutely, I said that, because I've done it before. I cut my whole cul-de-sac one time just to be nice to my neighbors. I've got people's car washes cleaned halfway around the country. So it's a matter of where you want to get and how creative you want to be. Does that make sense? To where the people you want to get access to. Because I can tell you what, whatever it is, I'll do anything to get wisdom and knowledge. And whatever I can come up with creatively to get access and attention, it's probably going to be less expensive than I had to pay retail for it. Does that make sense? But we got, how creative are you going to get? I don't know. How bad do you want the wisdom and knowledge? If your value of knowledge and wisdom isn't high enough, neither will your creativity. But if you've got the value of knowledge and wisdom, you'll figure it out. And you get knowledge and access. You know, you're doing something to create value here in Mentorfish. What are you doing in Mentorfish to create value? What are you doing? What do you have to do to be a member of Mentorfish? Yeah, you pay $49 a month. That's what you create value with. Helps the business run, helps us do contribution, does all kinds of things. You're contributing to everything. Yeah, you're part of the contribution. You're creating a service. Does that make sense? So it works in all capacities. So you got to get creative. How are you going to get access? Create value. Serve. Okay? That's number 3. Number 4. Once you have access to a mentor, how do you maintain access to that mentor? I'm going to give you a quote. I'm going to sum it all up in a quote. Okay? And I'll tell you how I made this quote up, because I think it'll make more sense. But how do you maintain access to a mentor? Here's the quote. Continual recognition of greatness. Continual recognition of greatness will grant you continual access to it. Continual recognition of greatness will grant you continual access to it. Continual recognition of greatness will grant you continual access to it. And what I'm really saying is, don't ever get casual. As soon as you stop recognizing the value of that person's greatness in your life, you will lose access to it. Did you catch that one? As soon as you stop recognizing the value of the greatness that somebody has in your life, you will lose access to them. Let me tell you where I came up with that story. One of my mentors, which is one of my current mentors right now as well, back at towards the very beginning years of our relationship, we've been in a relationship together almost 9 or 10 years now. We travel together now. I got him ordained to marry Michelle and I. So we own property together, we do business together, we travel together. He married Michelle and I. So we have a great relationship. But back when we first got started, if he even mentioned the name of a book that a friend of his was thinking about reading, I would get it, read it, and report back out to him what I thought the value was or was not for my life, right? So a bit after that, we were sitting at lunch together, and he said, Keith, how was the book? And I said, what book? This was like a year and a half, 2 years later. I said, what book? He goes, that's interesting, Keith. There was a time in our relationship that if I even mentioned the name of a book that a friend of mine was thinking about reading, you would go out, read it, download or listen to it, and report back to me what you thought the value was. Last week when we were together, I told you the name of a book that I read that I love, and now we're sitting at a lunch table together, and you tell me you don't even remember the name of the book that I'm asking you about? Then he asked me the question I'll never forget. He said, have you lost the value of the greatness that I have in your life? And instantly I wanted to come up with every excuse I could in the book. But I knew deep down I had gotten casual. And so I acknowledged it. And he had the place in my life to ask me that question because he was asking me and trying to show me something because his heart was to protect me in the future relationships. I said, well, honestly, I have. Obviously, I have. Because I'm not performing at the same level I used to. I've grown casual. And that's what he told me. He goes, don't you ever get casual. The moment you get casual, you're going to lose access. And I said, well, can I renegotiate? And he said, absolutely. And I got the book and I read it. Got back to me in like 2 days. But I put it back in place. You know, even our military trains that casualness breeds casualties. Don't ever get casual. Never let your guard down. Don't ever stop recognizing greatness in somebody's life because if you do, you're going to lose access to them. So never get casual. I had to continue to recognize the greatness of the value of that relationship in my life because it does. It's unbelievable value. You say, Keith, it sounds high octane. Well, it is. So is the results I've created from that relationship. But here's the really cool part. Who has greatness? We all do. We all do. So that philosophy works across the board in any relationship, not just mentoring. If you stop recognizing the greatness of the value of your wife, you're going to lose access to her. If you stop recognizing the greatness of your spouse, your husband, you're going to lose access to him. If you stop recognizing the greatness of the value that your kids have in your life, you're going to lose access to them. If you stop recognizing the greatness of your upline or your downline or your coworkers or your bosses or your managers, you're going to lose access to them in your life because we all have greatness. So the key is continual recognition of greatness will grant you continual access to it. Never stop recognizing the value of the greatness that people bring to your life. See, humility is not devaluing yourself. Humility is the ability to see value in other people. Did you catch that? Humility is not devaluing yourself. It's also we often misinterpret that. Humility is not devaluing yourself. No, it's recognizing the value in others, that they have greatness and value in your life as well. And when you have that, you'll have successful relationships and you'll have a successful mentorship. One other quick thing I'll put out, in mentoring, you have a mentor and a protege. Right now, you may start as a protege, right? Here's what I want to tell you. Make sure you're a protege, not a parasite. You don't want to accidentally be a parasite. They seem similar at the beginning. They both latch on. But a protege will latch on, learn, and go and do. A parasite will latch on, suck you dry, and never try to do anything on their own. They'll try to live off of you. Does that make sense? That'll help you qualify people in your life, too. Think about, hey, is this person a parasite or a protege? Say, Keith, how do I know? Here's a couple quick qualifiers. If you don't already can't tell. Here's a couple quick qualifiers. You may want to write parasite and protege, and I'll give you a couple quick comparisons here real quick. A parasite will want what's in your hand. A parasite will want what's in your hand. A protege will want what's in your heart. A parasite will want what's in your hand. A protege will want what's in your heart. A parasite will want what you've earned. A parasite will want what you have earned. A protege will want what you have learned. There's a big difference. A parasite will want your wealth. A parasite will want your wealth. A protege will want your wisdom. There's a few more, but I'll give you an all-encompassing one. That's the key-all of be-alls. A parasite will want what's in your hand. A protege will want what's in your heart. A parasite will want what you have earned. A protege will want what you have learned. A parasite will want your wealth. A protege will want your wisdom. And here's the final one. A parasite will hear you. A parasite will hear you. A protege will heed you. There's a big difference between hearing and heeding. Everyone hears. Very few people heed. And your ability to heed will set you apart from anybody else that's out there, most likely. Everybody wants something, but so few people are willing to do what it takes to get there. So be a protege, don't be a parasite. Good stuff. Any other questions on mentoring? We answered, what is a mentor? How do you find one? How do you get into a relationship with one? And how do you maintain that relationship with one once you're in one? Any questions on that? Yes? Humility. Humility is not devaluing yourself. Humility is recognizing that other people have value as well and seeing their greatness. Any other questions on this? Good stuff? That's the first half. That's going to give you some tools to go out. Even today, you can start looking for a mentor somewhere around you and start figuring out what could you do to get in a relationship with them. We teach it to you in the boot camp as well. And we kind of do that in session 10. The art of mentorship is the second half of this training that you'll get to when you start getting there. Because we want to start out with you in the boot camp, start getting you going, and that's actually what we start to coach you to do in the boot camp. In session 10, we start saying, okay, now's your time. Let's start going out and looking in your life, and how do you begin to find these mentors and everything else. And we put a couple more pieces in place there to help you do that successfully.